The biggest mechanech that we have in Klal Yisrael was Moshe Rabbeinu. He was the leader, and he was the Neisan HaTorah. He was the mechanech of the Dar. No greater mechanech. And how did he get his job? So the Medrash tells us that he had a little class of shepselach, these little sheep. He was a raya. And one of the sheep ran away, ADHD. And he probably had a whole class or a whole school over there. If he was in Darche, he would have probably parallel classes going on. A lot of stuff going on. But what did he do? He stopped what he was doing and he chased down the sheep. When we were kids, when we got chased down, usually you felt a hand on your neck pulling you back to do what you got to do. That's not what Moshe Rabbeinu did. He sees that this sheep is drinking. Remember by the water fountain? If you were drinking at the wrong time when you're supposed to be on the line, wasn't good. He sees that the sheep has needs, and instead of reprimanding the sheep and complaining and sending him home and looking for a therapist, instead he apologizes to a sheep. He says, "Oi, I didn't know. Everybody has drink time, and you are thirsty more than other sheep, and you couldn't wait. I didn't realize. Oye, Fata, you're hungry, you're thirsty." And Moshe Rabbeinu is apologizing to a sheep. And then afterwards, he takes the sheep and he carries him on his shoulders. Probably not a very geschmacker thing to do. And he carries him back, that the sheep shouldn't even have to walk after he ran away. He shouldn't even have to have consequences, natural consequences of his own actions, because it's not your fault, it's my fault. I should have provided for you. When Hashem saw the way that Moshe Rabbeinu was taking care of sheep, he said, "You're going to be the Roya Neman of Klal Yisrael." If you can care about every individual and not just be busy with the group, and you realize that when somebody misbehaves, even a sheep, that it means that we didn't provide for you, you're the one I want in charge of teaching Torah to Klal Yisrael. And for as long as I can remember, at least 15 years that I'm in the not chinuch field and the anti-chinuch field, dealing with what I deal with, the one name in Klal Yisrael that pops up consistently as someone who not only builds moistus to a tremendous level, but someone who cares about every single child. I know from so many people who tell me, I know from family members, how Rav Bender is the one.
It's my pleasure to be here. It really is. It really is. It really is chus for me. This man is doing what nobody else in America is doing, and he's really the number one person in Yanim that you're all here for. And truth is, it took me much too long to come here. And even though I had tough 2 days, I was traveling around, literally around the country last 2 days. And I'm happy to be here. What can I tell you? It's the man is doing what nobody else is doing. I say it all the time. And the problem yeshivas have, I want to get to what I want to say in a minute. The problem yeshivas have, we have the same problem we have. We have these so-called, I don't know who's regular, who's not regular, but I'm not sure who's regular, who's not regular, but we have also regular kids in yeshiva. And when you have regular kids in yeshiva, sometimes the other kids create problems for them. That's a problem we all have. But I believe really you can help every single child. You can. I want to tell you something about myself for a minute. I want to talk about myself, okay, if you don't mind. I went through a very, Avi doesn't know what I'm going to speak about, Rebbe Avi, I should say, excuse me. He has, by the way, a wonderful son-in-law, Talmud Yeshiva Solomon, terrific young man. You knew that? You knew that? It is? Kan harab Hashem, b'li'ayin harab. Anyways, so I was 15 and a half years old, exactly, and then I was with my father, coming up now, over 50 years already. And I was learning Philadelphia Yeshiva. Philadelphia was Harvard. Philadelphia, there was no out-of-town yeshivas. There was Ner Yisrael in Baltimore. Most of the out-of-town crowd who came there, and I'm talking about Litvisher world. And there was not much more in the Chassidish world then. There was nothing really then. And the Shveshaya was not really for high school boys, not really for high school. It was a Besmedish. Beshvagi was not really out of town. It was local Monsey Yeshiva. So there was, the 2 or 3 main yeshivas was Cleveland Tells, and then there was, we used to call it the Tells Alaga, we used to call it. Because, so it was Cleveland, and there was, because they were more strict, or whatever it was, but it was a wonderful yeshiva. Ner Yisrael, and Philadelphia. Philadelphia got into was very chashiv, and I spoke to my father at 10:30 at night. I spoke to my father, and 11 o'clock he was dead. 11 o'clock he had a heart attack, it was nifta, I didn't know. So my life changed upside down in 2 years, and really, I was a shambles for 2 years. Now, why am I comparing to this? You'll hear in a minute why. And this is what I try to tell the Bachrim, that I deal with some of them. Again, I'm not the level that Rabbi Avi does, nowhere near it, of course. But I try to tell them this all the time, that I could have given up my life also, and I did for a while. So the next morning, 6:30 in the morning, the Vecker, no, it was a Vecker, Shmuel Kamenetsky woke me up. He was a very close friend of my father, and he told me, you got to go to New York, your father is sick. But I remember everything vividly of that morning, because you remember these things. He woke me up and he says, he didn't tell me my father was niftus, I wore tefillin, I davened. Then Rebbe Yishvei and Reb Him, the two Rosh Yeshiva, Philadelphia Yeshiva, they copied me on the train back to New York. In those days, you didn't have cars like that today. And I went back by train to New York. I come into my father's levaya. I arrived 10 to 1, the levaya was 1 o'clock. And my brother-in-law, Reb Chaim Epstein, the Chasadik Levracha, he tells me that he holds I should be home with my mother. I should be home with my mother? Okay. So, Bekitza, I said, fine. Reb Chaim Epstein says, I have to find the yeshiva now, right? I have to find the yeshiva. And I was in Tervadas, and I left for high school to Philadelphia. So I was in Tervadas, I'm not going back there now, so I got to find a new yeshiva. So it took about 2-3 weeks that I was home, and I'm staying home with my mother. My brothers were out of town, I had a sister that was home, and my whole life changed upside down. I'm in Harvard, goodbye, you're gone, you're going to be home now. I became very, very angry. Now, my mother suffered from me, my mother. My mother was a wonderful, wonderful lady. Those who had her for a teacher, she was a fabulous woman. She never ever patched us. My mother is the reason why, if I'm anything today, because of her. My mother never ever laid a finger on us. She would just say to us, Yanko, I'm disappointed in you. That's it. And it worked. Because she's such a lovely woman that it worked. I'm disappointed in you. But I remember finally my brother Reb Chaim Epstein found the yeshiva from Mir Yeshiva. I'm going to give you a dogma of how bad it was. So he found the yeshiva in Mir Yeshiva, Ocean Parkway, because my father was a mirror from Europe, so he knew a lot of people there, and they decided Mir Yeshiva, Ocean Parkway. That night, I cried the entire night long. Oh, I know Mir Yeshiva. Oh, crazy Mir Yeshiva. I don't know anybody. My mother, who just became a widow, suddenly, we had zero money, by the way. We had no money when my father was living, because my father was a manal in Tervadas, and my mother had a job in Miss Yaakov. My mother never asked for a raise in all the years she was in Miss Yaakov. So when she was nifter, after 60 years of teaching between Europe and here, my mother was nifter 23 years ago. Between that, she earned $13,000 at the end, 23 years ago, which even then was nothing. And I don't remember ever getting a shirt, don't feel bad for me, I don't remember getting a shirt or a pair of slacks that was new. The only thing we got new was a suit for Pesach. I had a cousin that had the first non-shatnez suit factory in America on the east side, and my mother took us to buy shoes. The only thing, we didn't wear hand-me-downs for shoes. We got a new pair of shoes every year. I remember one time when I was in Tervadas, after my father was nifta, and I had these hand-me-downs, right? So this was in the past Tervadas, and I forgot to take out the label. The boy's name was Lamb, not the Lambs in Williamsburg, and the Lamb thing came out. And a boy sees me, boys could be cruel, and he says to me, Lamb, how you doing, Lamb? I said, I gave him such a shot with my hand, you know. He made fun of me, because I'm Lamb. Here I am, and my father's nishta. I went to the yeshiva, I cried the entire night long. Finally fell asleep in the morning, I said, Yankel, time to get up. I went to yeshiva, I went by subway for the next 8 years. I went by subway in the morning, and at night today, you wouldn't put your kid on the subway, right? I went by subway every day to yeshiva, but I studied the map. I went to know where I'm going. I used to have a subway map. Today, nothing. I don't know, subway maps today. I had a subway map, and I studied it. I was so exhausted that I fell asleep on the train. And I woke up, opened my eyes, and I see the stop says Avon, A-V-E-N. The D train then is changed to F. I said, Avon? I'm lost. Wow. I'm so excited. I'm lost. I'm lost. I have to go to yeshiva. And I was, for a minute, the first joy I felt in 4 weeks, because I'm lost. You know, I mean, that's what kids feel like, you know. I'm lost. I don't have to answer to anybody. I'll get stuck somewhere. I'll find out where I am later. The train pulled out of Avon and pulls into Avenue P. I wasn't lost. Avenue N was Avon. There's the E and the N are too close to each other. 54 years later, I remember the joy I felt, the excitement I felt that I was lost. It lasted for about 2.5 minutes, as long as it takes from Avon to Avenue P. And next stop was Kings Highway. I got off the train. I slept yeshiva. First day, I'm walking in there. No one says, you know, I'm not making yeshiva chas v'shalom on video. I got to be careful. Eli Brudney, Abba Brudney, my friends from Williamsburg, Rebelli Brudney, and Brudney said, Shalom Aleichem to me. Hello to me. I walked in there. Began 2 years of depression. I was very down. I was really very down. And I just kept on feeling sorry for myself. Look at you, your life turned over. And I dwelled on, I couldn't go to my mother. I didn't want to hurt her, my mother. I had such a derech. She's a widow. I couldn't go tell her anything. And for 2 years, I'm not exaggerating, I was just very, very down. I couldn't learn. I didn't care. I cut classes. Can't answer to what the Faraka people would throw me on my job. I cut classes. I used to buy 50 cents tickets in Yankee Stadium. The bleacher seats. Imagine the ticket for 50 cents in Yankee Stadium, sneak out of yeshiva and go there. I just was not a happy person. I was not a zufriedener mensch. I wrote a book about my parents called A Tale of Two Worlds. So when I wrote the book, I'm thinking a little bit horses. So I wrote this book, A Tale of Two Worlds. I had an author, of course. And I wrote a lot of anecdotes there. People think that Gedolim are made, automatically. So I had a lot of stories on Williamsburg. I just spoke to Vision to Chassid. Anything I remember, they put into the book. I wanted to make the book not just about my parents, about the Tkufas, my mother in Europe, Sarah Shnira, my father learning in the Mir in Europe. Father's an American. And Tarvadas, he had building Tarvadas, and, building Miss Yaakov in America. So anecdotes. So I had some very close friends. I sent them the book with inscription, okay? There are 4 Canarik brothers. They run the Peekskill Yeshiva. Wonderful people. One is Reb Elia Canarik, he's the Rosh Yeshiva. You know them, Rabbi? You know him? Okay. Reb Elia Canarik is the Rosh Yeshiva. Reb Hershel Canarik is the Manal in high school. Reb Beryl Canarik is 12th grade Rabbi. Reb Mendel Canarik is the executive director. Mendel Canarik is a big letz. He calls me up once. He says, Yanko, we're changing the name of our Mary Peekskill. We're calling it Canarik, and Canarik. So we're changing the name. Because, all the yeshivas. So when I sent him the book, 2 weeks later, he calls me up. He says, Yanko, I love the book, but I got me very nervous. Once you had all the stories in the book, then what if you put them there? There's a guy, fellow, he's a 9th grade Rebbe. You can do the pin test with him, it's called. He knows Shas all over. His parents had a television when he grew up in Williamsburg. It was very commonplace. We didn't have a television. Imagine today that the police, the secret would get them today. Everybody had television. I think the television, if you asked me, I don't go off on a tangent, was created for the Holocaust survivors. It brought them a little bit of Luchas HaNefesh. They escaped. The people that came here, they were we don't know how, but we saw when we were kids, the 50s, they were so broken. And I remember the old people that we used to go visit them, whatever, they were so broken and they got escaped. Television wasn't what it is today. But they really, I think, if television had a mila, that was the big mile television then. These people, Chassidish mostly, because there was very few Lita in Poland, no one survived. But the Hungarian Jews survived. I remember you couldn't find, they had the biggest lesson, by the way, that group. You couldn't find an Amid between Pesach and Shavuos, because all the art sites were there. It was terrible. Anyways, so, parents, survivors, they had a television. 1962, 8 of us watched the last game of the World Series. You know what? We didn't turn out so bad. Nicht gefährlich, Today, by the way, I use this, I'm being Megalis to say this over here now. When people come to me with the computer, I tell them you're going to take everything away from them. Forget it. You're going to lose them. You can't. The houses that are super strict, not so pashut, But he had to try. My father was I have to say this, but he was nizzer and everything, in kashrus and stuff. When kashrus was a problem in America, he really was nizzer and everything, my father. I don't remember that much from my father. I remember my mother much better, obviously, right? And he allowed us every Sunday night to go watch TV by a neighbor. He allowed us that. You can't imagine that today. How could you imagine that today? Because everybody was watching TV. He didn't want us to do it secretly. So when I moved to Far Rockaway today is a much frimmer town, correct? Different world. And how many years are you there? How many years in Far Rockaway? It was 30 years. So I came 40 years ago. We had to tell our kids you only go on Shabbos till Lawrence. Because Lawrence was a much more modern neighborhood. Today you have all kinds today. You couldn't go past the circles, big circle, traffic circle. You couldn't go past it, right? But every Sunday we told our kids, go watch TV, go watch the ball games. Because if not, they would have gone, all their friends, everybody had television in those days, they all would have gone and watched on their own. So I remember that. I used to cut. Now, Eli Bradley was a good boy. He didn't cut class. But I cut class. I was miserable. And I'd say to forget it. Finally, I'm cut short those 2 years of shenanigans that I did. But I was miserable. I was unhappy. I blamed it on my father that he died. Never had problems on my mother. I blamed it on everybody. I blamed it. Until I discovered, so I decided I got to do something. I was busy feeling sorry for myself. When I talk to the Baruch Yeshiva that are going off, right? There aren't many, obviously. We send them to Rabbi, of course. But the Maisa, I tell them, stop feeling sorry for yourself. That's the thing I find works for me. Feeling sorry for yourself makes you feel good for 10 minutes, but it does nothing for you. You're back where you started from. When a kid takes drugs, he's down in the dumps. It's great. For an hour, it's wonderful, right? Whatever, however drugs work. And then boom, you go down. So I discovered for myself, and I tell this to the Bachman that I work. I wouldn't mind speaking to the boys, by the way. I really thought that we see some of the boys tonight, and girls. But I said, don't feel sorry for yourself anymore. It's going to get you nowhere. I had the brains at least to think like that, and I decided to become a pirchei leader. I got to do something for others. And I find, by the way, now I know, again, I'm not here with Rabbi's Kliss. I did read his books, Rabbi's, and he mentions, I find that the greatest thing I could do for these kids is give them a job to help other people. I find many of these kids have mushlikal hearts, and when they give them a job to help others, they find out there are others that are worse off than them, and I find that to be a fabulous idea. Whenever I have a kid who's broken, he's cheating on Shabbos, I give him a job to help somebody else, and they come away. It's not the high that one gets from a drug, but they get a high. Helping other people. Inherently, people are good. People want to be good. So I, for myself, I did all myself. I had no one to talk to. The other officials, again, I wasn't in the matzav like that. I was from, but they didn't exist growing up in Williamsburg. You were either from or you were a guy. That's all it was. So I didn't go in that direction, but I was miserable, unhappy, not so free to myself. So we had pirchei groups in those days. I decided I'm going to become a pirchei leader. And I did. I applied for a job as a pirchei leader. Pirchei was Shabbos groups on Shabbos. There was learning groups. It was those days. It was mostly stories. I became a pirchei leader, and lo and behold, I tell stories. I made up stories. I remember at Kalman Kleinus, I made a group of 5 boys learning Torah Das, and they were Chevrolite, and they used to make trouble or whatever. I made up, and I started this, and I found out, look, I can help other people. I was helping these kids, all these kids. I said to myself again and again, you're feeling sorry for yourself? You went through life badly? Everybody here probably feeling sorry for themselves, no? You have pekluch on pekluch on pekluch, right? Some of you have 2, 3, 4, 5, you have pekluch on pekluch. I think really that the greatest thing, I'm not saying that you could do, but I find that you could do is go out there and help other people. First of all, it's a schooler. People look for schoolers all the time, right? I'm not telling you to go stand and hold a kachka in one hand and a lion in the other hand and do a schooler with them. I'm not telling you that. A schooler that you want is that you go out and help other people. It worked for me. It worked like magic for me, And I've used it ever since. Tell people. And those kids that are problematic, I tell them to do that, really. Give them jobs. It works. She's a regular yeshiva. They know a kid can't sit in the class and you give him a job because you want to keep him out of trouble, right? But if I help him, so that started digging me out of my hole. I started working, helping other people, and then I went back to learning. Again, say the rest is history. Whatever I am, I'm not. But I think that's to me that was the key. That don't feel sorry for yourself. It'll take you nowhere. Everybody is feeling sorry for themselves, no? Why me? I want to tell you a story. You have to hire my Dragon for this. Not to feel sorry for yourself. The other boy in yeshiva was named Daniel Younger. Daniel Younger is one of my heroes. We taking all these handicapped kids to yeshiva. So over the years, we took many kids, unfortunately, that came from this borough. Why should a handicapped kid have a problem? I don't know. This boy came to yeshiva. He lived in whatever he lived in. And he came to yeshiva. He ended up moving to the neighborhood. And he's in a wheelchair. He knows his matzav. He has a disease called MD, muscular dystrophy. It's a very, very bad disease. Very bad disease. We've had over the years 4 boys with that disease in yeshiva. None from Far Rockaway and Lawrence. All from Kings County. 4 boys. 2 brothers, right? And 1 boy from one family. Aile Brabinowitz came from a very beautiful home in Flatbush in Bensonhurst. The 2 Minzer brothers, the Baba Chassidim. 2 of them are not living anymore. You know that the kids in yeshiva grew dramatically from having these kids. I tell this to other menalim all the time. I tell menalim this all the time. You think taking in a kid to yeshiva who has problems is a taiva for the child? Yes, it certainly is. The biggest taiva for the other kids. They learn how to deal with adversity. They help these kids. That is the handicap, which is obvious. But even if in ruach, in spirit they have a problem, so what? So Daniel Younger is a superstar kid. Daniel Younger didn't have it easy. Daniel Younger came to yeshiva, was here 1 year. He had an uncle who had the same disease, muscular dystrophy. One day Daniel Younger is not in yeshiva. His mother calls, he can't be in yeshiva because his uncle was nifta. That's a little bit unusual. A boy stops coming to yeshiva because his uncle is nifta. He didn't come to yeshiva. I found that the uncle had muscular dystrophy. Now, Daniel Younger was 9 years old. But Daniel Younger knew he had muscular dystrophy. And his best friend in the world, his uncle, died of the machla that he had. So I got in my car. They lived in Brooklyn, right? The father worked in Milmont, I remember. I got in my car and I drove down to see him. I found him in his bed in a pool of tears. I'm not exaggerating one word to you today. The bed was soaked in tears. He couldn't get out of bed. He didn't say the words to me, this is my life too, right? He didn't say it to me, but there's a bed soaked with tears. I sat there, I said to him, he promised he'll come to yeshiva again. I said, use that language. You feel bad? Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Where will it get you? Where's your crying? That's mean on my part? No, I said, I feel bad for you, but where's that going to take you? The fact that you're going to feel sorry for yourself, you're going to cry your head off, it's not going to do anything for you. Get up and do something with your life. He's 26 years old today. Right? I told him at one point, I'm a little bit of Avi's genes. I told him, get yourself a dog. I thought having a dog for him would be very, very good. This is like a little strange for a guy growing up in Mirishi with all the musa around you. See, this guy has a dog in the house, you're completely cuckoo, right? But he had a dog and he learned how to give love to the dog. He has a dog and he walks the dog, it's terrific. I know the dog very well, I visited the dog. I pick up the dog. I have pictures picking up the dog. I don't hang up the pictures on the walls of yeshiva, but he's my friend. The dog is one of my best friends. The dog, but he became a boy that works on himself. He can't come on any limb. How could a boy like that be happy? How can he be happy? He knows. He read up on everything. He read up everything about it. What it was like. He knows exactly what his matzav is. He knows exactly. And he's Mavis Cedric now, Chumash and Rashi, Targum with Rashi, and he says to me, I'll learn Targum. If I learn Rashi every week, I'm learning Kol HaTorah. He learns the Musas for him. It takes him 15 minutes to open a sefer. He has a little bit of power. He wants to do himself with his fingers. So when he was going through his stages, when he was 17 years old, all right, he was going through his stages of...
It used to take me also 15 minutes to open a sefer.
Yeah.
Nobody was proud of me.
Anyways... It took him. He's an unbelievable kid. When he was 18, he went through a little bit of a. There's a yid that one of the Miri where she was there was Rabbi Yamin Finkel. If you see this man, he radiates simcha, happiness. They call him Rabbi Yamin HaTzadik. Rabbi Yamin HaTzadik, and I was zeicher to bring him to yeshiva to speak to the boys. I can't tell you, the people want his brachas. They lined up for brachas. Everybody, he was there for hours. And Daniel Young is riding by with his electric scooter, with his equipment. So, of course, Rashiva Finkel goes down. He says, Yishav Refuah Shleima. He was in the age then when he was a little bit like, he says, I didn't ask for Refuah Shleima. I was standing there, I was stunned. And, okay, I said, Daniel, so what do you want? He didn't know English. I said, what do you want? He says, I want a bracha for Yirah Shemaim. So I told him, Yamin, he wants a bracha for Yirah Shemaim. So normally you answer Yirah Shemaim, you get it or you don't. I gave you a bracha for that. Akol b'dei Shemaim chutz. You gotta be on your own. But I figured it out, and he didn't deny it to me. By him not denying it to me, that means he's maida. How could a boy growing up in a wheelchair not say, why me? He can't go to the bathroom by himself. The bachram, by the way, take him to the bathroom. They wipe him. It's great training for a bacha. If you give these guys jobs, this is what you got to do to them. Let them work with other kids. The boys yeshiva take care of them. The bathroom. But everyone's at recess. They're all flying out to get the courts, right? There's a certain amount of basketball courts. They want to get the basketball courts. He's going to watch. So the boys, when he's young, they played with him. Now he can't. Baruch Hashem, his parents got him, helped out. He has his own van that works with a computer. He has a little bit of power in his hands, right? I mean, his hands, he can still move a little bit. And he drives the car. No one went to get in the car. I got in the car. I went for a ride with him. He's a great driver. He drives down to the mountains. And this is, do things through. But at that time, I said to myself, it must be that he must say, why me? And it bothered him that he's scratching. Why me? That's the reason he didn't deny it to me. And he worked on himself. Instead of feeling sorry for himself, he said, I got to do something with all my problems. He has a kid that Nebuch is as handicapped as they come. Right? We had 3 other kids, boy Rabinowitz, that came from Bentnerst, and he was a terrific boy. I think the site is for all of you, who am I to talk? First of all, I had 8 kids. I have 2, we are sure live and be well. We all have issues with kids. Now they're all much older, etc. They're married, they don't have kids. 1 kid married off a kid already, Baruch Hashem. I'm an old man, okay. But I think the key is, no matter how many kids you have with the issues, we have, I don't know, why the shyness I sent to you, I can't answer you. I won't tell you another story now. A true story. Rabbi Reisman used to be the Rabbi Yaakov. He's a Rabbi Emeritus there, Yaakov Reisman. He has 4 kids that are very, he has only 3 now, that are very developmentally delayed. Right? They're not well. 2 of them work for the yeshiva all the years. They're assistants in the pre-1A. They're assistants. We give them a fake check, but the truth of the matter is he's really not. He's not. So the truth is, they're not really a help. They could tie your kid's shoes maybe a little bit, but they, it's something like another kid in the class who's, so they're assistants in the pre-1A. We used to have 3 of them. One of them was Nifta. Maishi Reisman was Nifta. I want to tell you a remarkable story with Rabbi Yaakov Reisman, a wonderful story. So he sent his kids first school, he sent them to his chush. Sent to chush. Chush is now a higher level of handicap. It's not, but these kids were not, whatever, X factor, whatever it's called, that's what it's called, the disease that they have. So the first year I went to the yeshiva, they asked Rabbi Reisman if he'll be the parents of the year at their annual dinner. So he says, yeah. He was the honoree at their dinner. He was the parents of the year at the annual dinner. I come to the dinner, and I went to the dinner. I said, what can I give you? He was a good friend of mine. Chizuk, the Rabbi and Rebbetzin Reisman. Come to the dinner. Yankel Reisman. Maybe the greatest part of the speech was maybe because there was no video and nothing of the speech. No tape, no nothing. So you should have heard the speech. I'll never forget it. He gets up and he says, sitting here today, parents and more parents, maybe grandparents. He says, I don't see any really outsiders here today. I was one of the outsiders, sort of, right? I don't see outsiders here today. I see parents. And everybody here must be thinking, why me? Why do I have 1 or 2 or 3? He had 4 kids like that, right? And 1 more kid's a little bit not so strong. Why me? Now, aren't you all thinking that? They were glued to him. He didn't ask for an answer, but why me? I'll tell you a story. He told them over. This is the famous Shaya story. One of our rising kids named is Shaya. So I haven't talked about the yeshiva today, and that's not my intention, but this happened because I saw it. When the yeshiva had, my son Tzvi was in that class. 5th grade went out to play ball. So Tzvi is now 40 years old. He's got to be about, he was, at the time then, he was about 9 years old. So this is a story of 31 years ago. So I was the chief cook and bottle washer. I wasn't like today I'm a fancy head of a school with principals. I was the principal, and I was the bus monitor, and I was doing everything. I had to do whatever I had to do. So I go out there and watch the kids playing ball. One of the kids says to Shaya, I didn't tell this Rabbi Reisman. I didn't want to hurt him. But somebody else told him. One other person saw it. So I said to, so he says, right. So I said to Shaya, the kid said to Shaya, you want a bat? And Shaya says, yeah. They handed him the bat. He took it upside down the bat. So another boy ran up and straightened him out. The barrel of the bat. He held it from the barrel, so someone turned it over. And then he stands up at a plate. And the pitcher was a kid, Rosenberg. Susan Rosenberg, the kid's son. I remember it's like everybody was involved. And he goes up and he throws the ball. And Shai, of course, swings and misses. And he throws another ball, and Shai swings and misses. Almost like a philharmonic. Suddenly all the pieces came into play. The pitcher went 2/3 towards home plate. Those of you know baseball. The pitcher went 2/3 towards home plate, where the kid is standing there. 2 boys went up and they held the bat with him. Yeah, and he swung and he hit a ground ball to third base. Those that don't know baseball, forgive me. Okay, he hit a ground ball to third base. The third baseman let the ball roll between his legs. And they're screaming to Shaya, run, Shaya, run. And Shaya runs. Shaya runs to first base, and he goes past first base. Another kid runs out, Shaya, no. Brings him back to first base. It's time to go this way, to second base. Shaya did not know anything that he was doing. But the third baseman let the ball go through, so the right fielder picked up the ball and threw it 40 feet over the first baseman's head. On purpose. If you know baseball, if you don't baseball, I'm sorry. In the meantime, Shaya has two boys running with him, and they run to third base. And finally, this other guy finds the ball and throws it back to third base, 40 feet over his head, right? And this is like all the kids. And then Shaya runs home, and both teams, both sides, picked up Shaya on their shoulders, and Shaya won the game. That won the game for them, by the way. And they all said, Shaya hit a home run. And they were carrying Shaya. Shaya hit a home run. Beautiful story, no? That's what the kids, that's my editorial before. When you take kids who have issues, helping other kids. So Reisman said over this story. He says, that's what happened with my kids. Then he said a murdiger thing. The koyach and the gevura of Rabbi Reisman. He says, how do you know that the other kids were the regular kids? And my kids are not the regular kids. Maybe my kids was, he says to the people sitting here, our kids were sent here for a purpose. You don't know why? Kids that go off the derech, we don't have the genes they have sometimes. I mean, genetic factor. Certain kids went through what they went through and didn't go off. They're sent with this shyness to this world. They sent with this shyness to this world. And he said publicly, maybe my 4 sons and all your kids are the good ones. And the other kids got to learn midos. And we all have a mission in life. The mission in life is to do something. My kids were sent here to this world to teach midos to the other kids. And the other kids don't develop good midos, they failed. They failed. Kids are selfish by nature. Kids can be busy with themselves, right? How many people who played baseball dreamt of being up and being a baseball player and being up in the bottom 9th inning in the World Series and hitting the home run if you're a sports fan? You dream, when you're a baseball fan, you dream that, right? If you're Chassidish, what if I would have been the Rebbe? Sitting there with all the different colors and the everything that he wears, you know, the bekishes that they wear. Every kid, Chassidish, dreams of being a Chassidish Rebbe. He says, we have our kids here, and you're all here today. And you're all thinking, saying, why me? I said, because maybe my kids were here for a purpose. We don't know, Rabbi say. And ladies, we don't know. Who am I to tell you that? Because I do live it with so many kids. We don't know why our kids have these nisyanis. For sure, they're wonderful kids who did not have it in them to fight. Whatever the reason was, they couldn't fight. They just couldn't do it. So they fell in. And they're falling, and they're falling, and they're falling, and they're falling. I'll tell you one thing, it's almost a guarantee. I don't know what Rabbi Fisher tells you, but I've seen the worst. When the parents love them to pieces, take care of them, most of them come back. It takes a long time sometimes, a lot of years of grief, and the ones who don't come back and stay not from, but they come back as family people, and they're good people, and we don't know after 120 years, we don't know where they're going to be placed after B'Shamayim. We don't know. We think only the Chashit of people. We don't know. We have no idea where these guys who don't come back, we have no idea if they do good things with their life. Doesn't mean they have to be coming from again. Hopefully they will become from again. But we don't know. I went through 2 tough years. Baruch Hashem had the brains to say, stop feeling sorry for myself. But it was a challenge. It was a challenge for me now. Not the same challenge, obviously, right? We all have different challenges. I have the schus of going 3 times a year to 3 conventions. Yes, I go to a good convention, I go to a Masar convention. I don't mean those conventions. One is called Samchenu, which is a widows organization. One is called Sister to Sister, which is divorce, ladies who are divorced. And one is called Links, right? Links is for Yisaimis. So the Samchenu has 500 widows, right? And the sisters 500 divorcees, right? When I go there for Shabbos, I'm bringing home the pekel for the whole year. The email today, anybody can get through to you. And they do. And Links, Yisaimis, they have their own problems, right? I fight with the girl. I'm very close to a lot of Links girls. Really, I really am. They call me, they write me. It's time consuming. Till middle of the night on phone calls, But I fight with them. A good example. I don't give in to them and everything. For example, the one thing they hate the most is when their parent gets married again. They can't handle that. Rather, a very chashvi that works with them told me that the worst ones are the married ones. Go figure it out. The married ones don't like it. The father marries selfish people. You are married. You can't let your father's a 52-year-old widower, or your mother's a 49-year-old widow. What's Kate Techon? They're getting married. It's not the same for me. Two girls said to me once, it's like to walk around, we're three of us, Nasa Mullah from Chicago. We have three of us, the men that come. We're Platinum from Chicago. He says, one of the mothers says, they can't handle it because they used to walk around in pajamas in the house. Now there's a strange man in the house. I can't walk around like that anymore. I said, for that is a reason why your mother shouldn't be happy anymore. Your mother's entitled to be happy. Now I have a right for them with Chumash. I'm Avaseder. I try every week with Chumash and Rashi. It's hard, time-wise. I learn every Rashi. Rashi in this week's Parsha. Just remember that this week's Parsha says, everybody knows when he was, we over time, no? What? I still have time, no? All right, yeah. Okay, Bekitza. So, Rashi says a remarkable thing. Rashi says, everybody knows Eliezer, Eved Abraham brings Rivka, right? For Yitzchak. We all know that pasuk because she sees Yitzchak. Yitzchak Lasoyach Vasada. He went out to daven, and she sees Yitzchak, and she covers up. But Tiskas, the B'nai Batakin comes from there. The B'nai Batakin comes that she covered her face before she married Yitzchak. But there's another pasuk no one talks about. Yitzchak ba mibe'er lachai royi. Yitzchak was coming from a city called, it means where Hashkadosh Baruch Hu saw the Malach came to. Be'er lachai royi. And then it says he went to daven, and then she saw him and she covered up. So Rashi says, why was he coming? Why was Yitzchak doing Be'er lachai royi? He didn't live there. Rashi says he went to arrange for Hagar to marry his father again. He went to arrange a shidduch for his father. Halach to ask Hagar to remarry his father. So she was allowed to, la'alacha, because she didn't marry anybody else. And she went back and she had more kids with Avraham Avinu. So, who was the shatcha there? Yitzchak, the son. I told the girls. Yeah, but Yitzchak was getting married already. I'm single. Leave me alone, you guys. Leave me alone. The Torah says everything in Bereshis is to teach us lessons. Everything. Look what Yitzchak does. My Rebbe Yisrael Belsky was the one who hammered this into us. He used to say, look what Yitzchak does to save Esav. Esav, unfortunately, was destined to be the head of Edom and Amalek. Right? He does it. What's shot over there? Yitzchak ate. Right? Is tzayid. And Yitzchak loved him. Tzayid befiv. Why? He gave him a steak sandwich. Yitzchak needed a steak sandwich from Esav. No. Yeah, I'm sure Abby says this. He says it in the book. He says it. No question about it. You know why he was doing that? My son is not going to talk learning to me. He's going to talk with me steak. I'm going to talk steak to him. That's, of course. Yitzchak is Gvura. Yitzchak is Tefillah. Yitzchak is the one who went on to the Akedah. The Akedah is Yitzchak Baracham and Tizkar. Every time something happens to Yitzchak, Yitzchak remembers the Akedah. He's busy with sushi. Yitzchak, if you don't eat sushi, and he used to have a steak sandwich. No, he had a son that he didn't give up on him. He didn't know what Rivka knew. Rivka knew. Actually, Rivka was an Aviyah, and she knew that Esav ain't ever coming back. Yitzchak, when he's dying, he says, go out there. I want to give you a bracha. Go out there, shecht an animal, bring me a geschmack meal. Next week's parasha. What? Yitzchak tried till the day he was nifted to bring Esav back. She didn't know. The Eibishter. The tiny Yitzchak, there are tiny Yitzchak that Esav went off. Certainly not. We don't know. We don't know why we have challenges. We don't know. Says Rabbi Reisen publicly. I don't know why I have these 4 kids. I'll tell you one thing. I want to tell you something interesting. I keep a lot of names in my siddur. People to daven. People call me up daven for people. I have a list of shidduchim, girls that need shidduchim. There are a lot of them out there, unfortunately. I have chaylim. I mean, childless couples, but me is a very big thing. List of those people over there. And I keep my siddur. I have a card that holds it safe. If you ever saw it, what I'm holding, you'll see the card, like one of these thick index cards, the yellow card, and I have the card, and it's all worn out. There was some writing there. I never gave it out. It's 25 years old. You know why? Because Rabbi Reisen had arranged that his kids should learn Kriya Shema every single day in yeshiva and say brachas. When they didn't go Shabbos, he took care of them. It was a sight to see. They come to shul with your father, say brachas out loud. And one time they came, and the person in charge didn't say Kriya Shema with them. He wrote me a note. You didn't make sure my kids, they have one mitzvah to do, he says to me. They're able to say brachas with me. And I took that card, I left it in my siddur. Remind me of a lesson that I learned from this Horizon. That card is still in my siddur. It's worn out. It's completely worn out, that card. I can still see some of the words there. Because when he shagets me out, because we were good friends. He gave me a wonderful boy. But I want to remember that there are people out there, we don't know why, what, when, where. Horizon looked at it, Abish just sent me in a sign. 2 heroes, him and his Rebbetzin. And we're going to take care of it. You have to look at it as a sign. And why me? Why do you have that as a sign? First of all, if you only know how many, the ones with Seichel are here tonight. The ones who understand there's an Avi Fishoff that can work with you. Baruch Hashem. Okay, but I mean, mother out there, come on. Who are you kidding? There's no why me's. We don't know anything in life exactly. Our job is to work with them. Shouldn't every yeshiva? There's not a yeshiva day over here now. They should, but not everybody's capable of doing it. Not everybody's capable of doing it. You got to try your best with every single kid. I try to stay in touch with all these kids. I met a lady on the way in. I haven't spoken to her son for a long time. He left us in yeshiva. I called him last week, right? I spoke to him for a while. Spoke to him for a while last week. Try to stay in touch. You need time for that. I have a problem with time. It's a very big yeshiva, and you just don't have enough time. And but I'm just saying to all of you, my heart goes out to you. You're suffering. And I know what the suffering. Well, which mother doesn't suffer for a child? Which father doesn't suffer? You should know. Maybe to send you the sign. You do your job. That's all you got to do. You do your job. It's not to see in this world. It's not. How did my father? You think when you're a little kid, my father wanted to finish Shas, Biyun. He didn't finish. When you're a kid, you think like that, right? You couldn't finish Biyun. Maybe you learned something, and he never finished. It's my problem to worry about that. I'm sure Hashem takes care of it. If he learned Basmada Rabbah, I'm sure he'll finish us in another world. There's Gemara in Sanhedrin that says, the Kadosh Baruch Hu says 3 mishmaris in the night. 4 hours for us was the middle. What does the Kadosh Baruch Hu do during those 3 mishmaris? What does he do? He's pretty busy, Hashem, no? What does he do? What does he do? He said the middle mishmar, you know what he does? He learns with the kids who died young. So tell that to a parent who lost a child. Well, it's not anything worse than burying a child. Pretty bad, right? I'm sorry if anybody here lost a child, forgive me. It's pretty bad, right? Losing a child is a shver zach. Maybe Hashem, Chavrusa, we should learn well, you and I, none of our children should anything happen, Chas v'shalom. But we don't know the cheshbonos. I'm saying that to all of you over here. You latch onto a man, I'm not trying to flatter him, patronize him. There's no reason not to patronize him, I don't. But you latch onto somebody good that knows the stuff, and eventually you'll see the parents. It might take 20 years. It might take 10 years. There's some of you that are sitting here that I know well, that have had nothing but aggravation for a very, very long time. Who knows? We know the reasons for it. I say, Yashachelchem l'raisa, just keep on, and the best thing you can do is go out and find somebody else. Something not tafka here. Help other people. When you help other people, you feel a sense of accomplishment. It worked for me. When I went through those 2 bad years, all right, you say 2 years, big spiel. It was 2 hard years. And when you're a teenager, those years, 15, 16 years old, not a great age to be off the wall, off the charts. My mother dealt with me. She was wonderful. Never got angry. They got upset with me. Never. And I was really, remember one time, I wanted to play the frum roll one time. So my mother's ready made for Pesach. She used to cook a pot of gefilte fish. That was a huge pot. And I saw, I had to make it. I looked at the wallpaper in the olden days. It was made out of, the paste was made out of wheat. Remember those wallpaper, the paste? I said, Ma, look up there, Ma. There's paste coming out. It's Pesach. I climbed up there before she had a chance to even breathe. I started wiping it out right into the fish pot. I thought my mother would. Yeah, uncle, that's the fish for Pesach. I remember today, a huge pot. It finished. It's gone. All right. Okay, don't worry. But, why'd you do it for? I'm disappointed in you. You remember these things in your head. I did all kinds of things. L'maisa, I'm here today, and you're all here today, and you got to do all you got. Our job, Yiddish, you say, ich darf tun. The Eibishter wird öftin. Öftin means, you got to do, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make it happen at the end. That's his job. Shmatzliach.
Rabbi Bender, thank you for coming. It shows us that the leaders of Klal Yisrael care about us, and we really appreciate it. Thank you. Amen.